Nash Caldwell had always prided himself on understanding his wife Juniper better than anyone else. After 5 years of marriage, filled with moments of joy, challenges, and shared aspirations, he felt confident in the strength of their bond. He could still vividly recall the moment he proposed, the way her eyes had sparkled when she said yes. Together, they had built a life certain of what the future held. But that night, as they sat at the kitchen table, the soft hum of the television in the background, Juniper spoke words that shattered his sense of certainty. Casually, as though she were commenting on something trivial, she mentioned she had plans to go out with a co-worker on Friday. Nash blinked, waiting for some clarification, some indication that he had misunderstood or that she was joking. But instead, she calmly spread butter on her bread, seemingly unaffected. The normalcy of her actions made Nash's heart skip a beat, and he felt an uneasy prickle of suspicion crawl up his spine. "What?" he asked, his voice steady, though a storm was rising within him. Juniper met his gaze for a moment, and that's when Nash noticed it. A strange calculation in her expression, like she had been expecting this exact reaction from him. "It's just dinner," she said lightly, almost dismissively. "It doesn't change anything between us. I love you. This doesn't affect our marriage." Nash studied her face, searching for any sign of doubt, any crack in her composure, but she seemed completely at ease. It was as if she genuinely believed this was perfectly normal. His appetite vanished, and his pulse began to pound in his chest, but he refused to let her see the impact of her words. Juniper likely anticipated anger or a dramatic outburst, but Nash wasn't predictable. He had mastered restraint when it mattered most. Taking a slow breath, he exhaled deliberately, already forming a plan. If this was a game, he would not be the one to lose. A small, almost indifferent smile tugged at his lips as he casually lifted his glass of water for a sip. "I see," he said, his tone calm. Juniper's breath hitched, just barely noticeable, but it was enough for Nash to sense it. That small shift confirmed his suspicion. She wasn't looking for his permission. She was seeking a reaction. The silence that followed stretched on, thick and tense. Juniper feigned indifference, pushing her food around on her plate, but Nash's gaze never wavered. He continued watching her with an almost eerie patience. "Well," he said after a moment, keeping his voice light, "maybe I should go out with someone, too, just to see what it's like." For the first time, Juniper's composure faltered. Her fingers, which had been steady moments before, now trembled as she gripped her fork. She blinked rapidly, trying to process his unexpected response. "You met someone?" she asked, her voice betraying an unguarded curiosity. Nash merely shrugged, maintaining his calm. "There's a woman at the gym I talk to a lot. Might be interesting to go out with her sometime." The color drained from Juniper's face, and Nash could feel the shift in power. The confidence she had shown moments ago was fading, and he hadn't even begun to play his hand fully. The air in the room grew thick with tension. Her fork, which had been hovering above her plate, now sat motionless. She was no longer in control. Nash leaned back in his chair, exuding ease. Inside, however, he felt a cool satisfaction as he watched Juniper experience the same doubt she had casually handed him. "Oh," she muttered, trying to regain her composure. "I see." She looked away, nudging her food absently. But Nash noticed her legs shifting beneath the table, a nervous tic she was trying to hide. "Is that a problem?" he asked smoothly. Juniper let out a short laugh, shaking her head. "Of course not. I just wasn't expecting that from you." He raised an eyebrow. "Funny," he said, folding his arms across his chest. "I wasn't expecting this from you." For once, Juniper didn't laugh. His words had struck exactly where he intended, cutting through her forced lightness. She attempted to recover, lifting her chin and speaking with feigned ease. "So, who is this woman at the gym?" Nash smiled inwardly, recognizing the change in her. She was no longer pretending to be indifferent. Her question made it clear. She was invested, on the defensive. "I'm not sure it matters," he replied, dabbing his mouth with a napkin. "If it doesn't change anything between us, I don't see why details are necessary." Juniper laughed again, but the laughter was hollow, and the tension in her voice was unmistakable. "So it's real," You're actually going out with her." Nash tilted his head slightly, studying her closely. "You're the one who suggested we explore this, right?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. For the first time that evening, Juniper was speechless. The atmosphere between them was now thick with unspoken truths. The boldness she had shown when presenting her idea was rapidly fading, replaced by hesitation. This was no longer a game to Nash. It was something entirely different. Something Juniper hadn't anticipated. Nash had seen all he needed to. He knew the truth now. Juniper had never expected him to go along with this, and now she realized that her actions might have consequences. She stood to lose something she had always taken for granted. Without saying another word, Nash finished his water, placed the glass down, and rose from the table. "Good night, Juniper." She remained seated, watching him leave with an expression that was distant, almost detached. In that moment, Nash knew the power had shifted. Over the next few days, everything between them changed. The house that had once been filled with easy conversation and shared routines now felt heavy with silence. Nash continued his usual routine, leaving for work and returning at the same time each evening. But the unspoken tension between them was louder than any argument could have been. At first, Juniper convinced herself it was just a phase, that Nash was only pretending to be indifferent, hoping to make her back down. But as time passed, it became painfully clear that he wasn't pretending. If anything, he grew more distant and unpredictable. The first true moment of unease struck her one Wednesday morning. She was sipping her coffee when she noticed Nash standing in front of the hallway mirror fixing his collar. It wasn't the first time she had seen him do this, but something about the way he checked his reflection and ran a hand through his hair felt different this time. Then he picked up his phone, smiling at something. A strange tightness formed in Juniper's chest. For the first time, she felt a fear she had never associated with Nash before. The fear of losing him. She tried to shake it off, but the image of him standing in front of the mirror haunted her all day. Juniper had been texting him, trying to act casual as she sat next to Nash on the couch watching TV. She asked, "You seem happier lately." Nash didn't look at her, his eyes glued to the screen. He smiled faintly before responding. "Do I?" She shifted slightly, crossing her legs, keeping her tone light. "Yeah, like you've been busy." Nash turned to face her, his gaze sharp as if weighing her words before applying a calm, even tone. "Yeah, I guess I've been using my time better." A chill ran through her, and over the following days, Juniper paid closer attention to him. His phone was buzzing with messages more frequently. His morning runs were getting earlier, and one evening he came home, went straight to the shower, humming a tune she didn't recognize. Then on Friday morning, as they sat together at breakfast, he casually mentioned, "I'm going out tonight." Juniper froze mid-sip, her hand holding her coffee cup suspended in the air. "Oh," she replied, working to keep her voice neutral. "With who?" she asked, though the words felt hollow. "That woman from the gym," he said without hesitation. It felt like a punch to her gut. Her mind raced, searching for something to say, some way to turn the conversation to regain control. But there was nothing left to say. Nash was simply doing what she had set in motion. And suddenly, she wasn't sure if she still wanted to play this game. That night, as he got ready without a care, wearing a shirt she barely recognized, his cologne lingering in the air, Juniper realized the full weight of her actions. He didn't ask about her plans, didn't care about her supposed date with a co-worker, and it was then that the cruel truth hit her. She had never intended for this to get real. She wanted to make him doubt himself, to test him, but now she was the one full of doubt. She couldn't bring herself to leave the house. Her co-worker's messages went unanswered as she paced around the living room staring at her phone, hoping Nash would message her, that he'd come home early, or that this would all turn out to be a joke. But he didn't. When he finally came home at 3 a.m., he was as calm as ever, as if nothing had changed. Juniper sat frozen on the couch, her eyes locked onto him. "How is it?" she asked, her voice weaker than she intended. He shrugged, removing his jacket and draping it over a chair. "It was good," he replied with a neutrality that sent a chill down her spine. Desperation rose in her, but she didn't know what to say. She wanted him to deny it, to tell her it meant nothing, that it had been a mistake. But Nash wasn't apologizing, nor was he hiding anything. And that perhaps was the most terrifying part. Without another word, he walked to their bedroom, leaving her sitting in the suffocating silence. The next morning, when Juniper woke up, a heavy weight settled in her chest, a fear unlike anything she had felt before. Fear that Nash had changed, that she had pushed things too far and couldn't undo what had been done. As she entered the kitchen, she found him casually sipping his coffee and scrolling through his phone as if the world hadn't shifted overnight. He didn't even look up when she entered. She forced a light tone, trying to act normal. "You got home late." "I did," he replied, his indifference tightening the knot in her stomach. She pulled out a chair, watching him carefully, searching his face for any sign that this was still some game. But there was nothing. Nash wasn't pretending anymore. He was done. "Nash," she whispered, her voice faltering. "What are we doing?" He finally looked up, studying her for a long moment. Then with unnerving calmness, he asked, "You tell me. After all, this was your idea, wasn't it?" The lump in her throat grew. She tried to explain, to tell him she had made a mistake. "I didn't think you'd actually go through with it," she said weakly. He let out a quiet laugh, but it held no humor. "What did you expect? That I'd beg you to change your mind?" He went on, his voice steady. "I've been thinking a lot, Juniper, about what it means that you suggested this in the first place, about what that says about our marriage." Her heart raced as the weight of his words settled on her chest. "Nash, I made a mistake," she said, pleading. But he didn't flinch. A heavy silence stretched between them. She wanted to take back everything she had said, to undo the damage. But deep down, she knew it was too late. Nash stood up, rinsing his coffee cup in the sink. He turned to her one last time, and with a finality that shattered her, he said, "Thank you for showing me who you really are." Then he walked out of the kitchen, leaving her behind. Juniper sat frozen, her panic growing unbearable. A few minutes later, she found the courage to enter their bedroom. There on the bed were the divorce papers signed. Her heart dropped. In a daze, she leaned against the doorframe, watching in horror as Nash packed his suitcase. The sound of the zipper tearing through the silence felt deafening. Driven by desperation, she stepped forward. "Nash, please." Her voice quivered. She forced a smile. But it came out wrong, like a plea. "This went too far. I forgive you for going out with her. Let's just forget everything. If you forget what I said about dating someone else, I'll forget what you did. We can start over." Nash paused, gripping the suitcase tightly. When he looked at her, there was no hesitation in his gaze, only finality. In that moment, Juniper realized he wasn't afraid of losing her. She was the one afraid of losing control. A quiet, humorless laugh escaped him. "I don't need your forgiveness, Juniper," he said coldly. "You've taught me something these past few days, and now I know I deserve better than this." With that, he grabbed his keys, picked up his suitcase, and walked out the door. The sound of it locking behind him was the last thing Juniper heard before silence engulfed her completely.